Unfortunately, the month of Spoopy is going away, and I'm going to try and end it in style. Hello everyone, Britton here, also known as Samoki Dude, and today the book I am covering is BAM! The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay, who is who is described as one of the modern masters of horror literature. Paul Tremblay is one of those authors, kind of like Stephen Graham Jones or Grady Hendrix, who I've heard of in sort of modern circles, that are described as one of the best of the horror game right now. And last year I decided to pick up The Cabin at the End of the World because, for one, it's pretty short. It's about 270 pages, and also I was intrigued by the concept of this novel. And I'm happy to say that The Cabin at the End of the World is well written, a taut and suspenseful thriller. This book is written very well. It is very tight, very compressed. Characterization is also pretty strong for the most part. Tremblay has been compared a lot to Stephen King, who is actually blurbed right here on the front, funnily enough. And I can see how that comparison, I can see that comparison being there for a good reason. Tremblay certainly shares Stephen King's ability to put you in the moment and really make you feel how the characters in his stories feel, and it is no different in this book. Luckily, he doesn't over-explain himself like King is sometimes one to do. I really enjoy how Tremblay in this novel really emphasizes the claustrophobic nature of the story. I mean, they're in a cabin in the woods, in the middle of nowhere, and basically they're screwed because they have 4 people who are possibly crazy looking after them. And it's a really weird thing because these people, despite the fact that what they're doing is utterly insane, they're pretty nice for the most part. They try to make it as convenient for them as possible. They do tie them up. They do a lot of but they do a lot of things that are horrifying. And it's also clear from their point of view that they really don't want to do this. They want to keep... They just think they have to do this certain thing. And I guess it's not really a spoiler because it's kind of one of the pitch of the book. Basically, they want these 2 guys, Eric and Andrew. They're a gay couple. They want Eric... The 4 people who come to this house want them to sacrifice either themselves or their adopted daughter, Wynn, in order to prevent the apocalypse. And basically the novel is them dealing with that choice. Are they going to do what the people say, or are they going to overthrow, or are they going to overcome this obstacle? And I really love how Tremblay never lets you out. The writing style really compresses you into the story. You're with these characters throughout the entirety of the story. And while I wouldn't say that they are the deepest characters in the world, they definitely do their role well, and they definitely feel like real people. Even the people who are the crazy cultist people, allegedly, are also really compelling as well. They're also definitely feel like they could be real people in this situation who understand how crazy this sounds, but they are convinced. They believe that they have to do this in order to save the world. Or are they just insane? One of my other favorite parts of this book is how Tremblay is constantly playing with your expectations. There's an old trick I remember that I learned when watching YouTube videos about thrillers such as Breaking Bad or Ozark, which is when you put your character into a jam, twist them. And then after that, twist them some more. And then just keep twisting and see how they get out of it. Well, Tremblay understands this point very well. He is constantly twisting your expectations. He suggests one thing, and then he throws another thing at you. You are just as disoriented as the characters in this story. They don't know what to think. It sort of becomes a Scully and Mulder thing if you've ever seen the X-Files, but it's not as stark as those two. Like, one of the guys, I think it's Andrew, who is more skeptical of the whole thing and thinks that they're just coming after him because they're gay, while Eric is not necessarily that he believes them, but he starts wondering, what if this is real? What if this is not crazy? Even though if you think about it for a second, it's utterly insane. But constantly, you're constantly asking these questions. Like, are these people just these disturbed lunatics looking to take out their delusions on this poor couple? Are they really trying to prevent the apocalypse? And what I really like about this book is that Tremblay never gives you a straight answer. And I have heard before people have said, either to praise or diss on him, that Tremblay likes to keep his books ambiguous. He doesn't like to spoon-feed you answers, which I appreciate, because I think that really makes for an effective horror novel. And he never gives you a straight answer on what's actually going on. He suggests one thing, and then he gives you another thing to think about, and by the end of the novel, you're not even sure what's going on. And but it's also really tough to read, because there is some really tough things that happen in this novel that I don't want to spoil. And it does end on a rather sad note, but I don't want to really get into that. But just prepare to be saddened when reading this novel. I find that the best horror really comes from the suggestion. Now, what do I mean by that? I find that horror is not just the monster, this creature that's coming after you. Though, that does make sense. But the idea, the thought of horror, of what could happen. Why is The Thing so scary to talk about movies? It's not just because of the monster and how creepy it is. It's the idea that any of those guys could be the Thing. It's the same thing here. What if the idea of, what if this is real? And if not, what if this isn't real? What if we die and it was all for nothing? These are just crazy people. But what happens if it's real? What happens if our inaction means that we're basically dooming the world? As insane as that might be. Again, Tremblay never gives you a straight answer on what's going on here. He is constantly toying with how things are going to play out. And, even H.P. Lovecraft, I can't even believe I'm saying this, even he knew that the idea of the horror is much scarier than just showing the monster. Cthulhu is certainly scary, but the idea but what his real horror is that maybe we aren't as in control as we thought, and Tremblay really plays with a similar idea, though not quite as cosmic as Lovecraft plays with it. They basically, Andrew and Eric in this story, have to wonder if they're going to actually sacrifice themselves to possibly prevent this thing from happening, if it's even real, or if they don't, then basically they're just killing each other for no reason, and these people are insane. It's really a lose-lose situation here, and it is utterly terrifying to think about being put into this situation, and also just the feasibility of this story. There's not overt supernatural elements in this. There is the suggestion of something else going on, but really this could happen in real life. It certainly has in many cases. I think of the movie The Strangers, which is a fantastic, underrated horror movie from 2008, except the motivations of the villains in this and that movie are very different. The more I've thought about this book as the year has gone by, and it's funny, I actually finished this book around this same time last year, but really what I find makes... The more I've thought about this book, and the more I've thought about it, I find that this book really takes the idea of biblical providence to task. Now, what does that mean? Now, if you are familiar with Christianity or any of those religions, you probably know that providence is basically, to keep it simple, God is looking out for you. God is wanting to help you. To quote Jeremiah, I am come to prosper you, not to, I've come to prosper you. You've probably heard it in a bunch of, Joel Osteen preaching stuff. I don't care about that. But Tremblay really takes that idea of providence and he wonders, well, what if that isn't a good thing? What if God is looking out for us, but in the way that he does it is utterly horrifying? If God is truly looking out for us, why would he have us, these people, save the world in such a horrifying fashion? And would the cost of that be worth the price of a world that just keeps on going? And are these people even telling the truth? Tremblay never tells you. And that's ultimately where I think the horror of this novel comes from. Even on that biblical scale, on if God is looking after us, and what happens if he is, and what happens if the way he looks out for us is something that is utterly terrifying. But again, Tremblay leaves that entirely up to you, and that's really, the ambiguity of that answer is really what makes Cabin at the End of the World such an engaging read. Yeah, so I bet you're wondering what I think of the movie, The Cabin in the Woods, or not The Cabin in the Woods, that's a Joss Whedon movie. Damn it. What? The Shyamalan movie, the Shyamalan adaptation of this. Now, when I heard Shyamalan was going to adapt this film, I was not very pleased to hear it, because I've kind of grown sick of Shyamalan shtick, because he really loves those unexpected twist endings, even in movies where you don't need that at all. But I can understand why he would want to adapt this. I mean, this book is twisty. It's very contained. You wouldn't need a lot of money to make this movie. And, I mean, I saw the trailers. They look pretty cool. But from what I saw, from what I heard, it doesn't sound like the movie would be for me. It really takes away from why I think this book is so fascinating and why I think this book is so good. And I find, from what I heard, that Shyamalan kind of takes away what makes this book so horrifying, which is the what if, the, again mentioned, ambiguity of the story. There's not really a clear answer in this, but apparently in Shyamalan's movie, it's more of a clear answer. I mean, I expect nothing less from Shyamalan. But yeah, I'm probably not going to go see, I swear it's The Cabin in the Woods, or something like that. But I digress. Yeah, I'm not going to see the movie. I'm kind of tired of M. Night Shyamalan. I was really teased by Split, and then Glass came out, and I finally just said, you know what? I'm done. So, yeah. I guess really that's it for my review of The Cabin at the End of the World. If you want to check me out on Twitter, you can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Goodreads and Letterboxd, where I write reviews, which are probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. You can also find me on Discord if you want to come talk to me. If you have read Cabin at the End of the World, let me know what you think of it. I thought it was really good, if you didn't get all my commentary and jargon. But I thought this book was a lot of fun. Can't wait to see what Tremblay has up next, up his sleeve. I'm definitely going to be reading more of his work, because this one was just really, really good. And, yeah, I think that's all I got for today. So, take care, everyone.